Broadly, environmental awareness, I mean, I think I've always kind of cared about the environment, but I studied biology through like undergrad and grad school, well, my master's program, and like biology itself doesn't necessarily have to have an environmental component to it. You can just study anything biological. And I always gravitated towards the stuff that kind of had, like, we call it an applied slant. So like it has a way that like what we're learning we could then make a change that would help, a bird species or a plant species or something. So I feel like I always gravitated towards that even when I was working kind of in pure biology. And so I was really happy. Did a PhD in wildlife science, which has a very like conservation slant, and then got this job here in environmental studies. So the native plant garden is an outreach it started mostly in the environmental studies program, but it's now become everybody's garden, and a lot of people worked on it in the beginning. The idea is putting native pollinator plants back into the environment because it's hard for them to grow kind of naturally in a lot of places on campus where we either have parking lots or lawns. So we built this garden that provides a bunch of services to birds, butterflies, bees, all of that. There's a bird feeder set up in there, like on the with the hooks and everything. But it's all, I mean, birds are also pollinators, so it's all kind of intermixed in there. I mean, sustainability is an ongoing moving target. We are not the best in any way. We're trying, we're making a lot of progress. I mean, I think we're getting more and more sustainable as we do things like restoration projects and have the native plant garden keep expanding. There's only so much you can do in terms of like creating a garden and offering this if the whole campus is littering and or producing a lot of waste that goes to landfills. Like, it's kind of like you got to do all the things, and I would say we're doing pretty good, but there's always more we could do to become more sustainable as a campus. We're pretty good in terms of our rating, but I still see a lot of room for improvement, which probably means that a lot of places are really bad. And I always want us to be improving. Like, there's always something we could do better. Porcelain berry is just one of many invasive plants that we have on campus. It's bad, and it can basically kill a tree underneath it, and it has on campus. Our response to it is very targeted. So it's everywhere on campus, and what we're focused on is not the areas that maybe are visible to people, but areas where the forest is actually intact. The porcelain berry isn't completely overrun there yet. Those are the areas that we're really trying to keep it out of, because these invasives, they really like disturbed areas. So they're always going to be around a parking lot or buildings and stuff, but we have some really pristine forest where the porcelain berry is kind of on the edges and it's not all the way through, and that's where we're focusing a lot of our invasive removal effort. Last year we started a big invasive project on campus on the east loop, kind of closer to the front entrance. There it's multiflora rose, which is a big problem, and that's a different thing. It's a low, thorny type bush thing, but it will just push out all other plant species in the area, and so we had to do a lot of removal there. There was also some porcelain berry, there's border privet, there's a bunch of things in there. So basically any area on campus that's grown up in the last 50 years is gonna have a lot of invasives in it, because that's when the invasives got here and then established. So if you disturb something and then let it regrow, it's gonna have invasive plants in it. I mean, I have plans to expand as soon as we can wrangle funding for it. I think what the next logical step, and we did it this year, is to focus on not just planting in that garden area, but using the area to grow plants that we can plant in other areas. So this year we set up a little fencing system where we were growing potted plants, and then they all got taken away this fall and planted in the forest, so that we're actually restoring some of the bigger areas on campus. Instead of just keeping this cultivated garden that we're caring for, we're using all the knowledge of what we know about growing plants to then have things that we can put back out in the environment. So that's it needs a good amount of infrastructure to do that well, because you're basically becoming a nursery for native plants that then you can either give away, sell, like trying to just like get them out in the environment, or we could plant them all around campus so that they're everywhere.